Whew, I just love seeing that virtual summit come on my screen because it always means we are in for a big, long, awesome, info-packed day, and today is definitely going to be a good one. Hello and welcome to the ActualTech Media Enterprise IT Virtual Summit. Now today's topic, Spring Summit, Supercharging IT. And I want to start by saying a giant thank you to all of you for joining us. On the summit today, we have some of the most innovative and leading companies in the industry. You will be hearing from experts at Rubrik, 1111 Systems, Zerto, Okta, and AppDynamics. And each of these expert-led conversations will be full of innovative solutions, hot trends, and creative strategies to supercharge your IT environments. This is going to be such an incredible day, and I hope you are all as pumped up as I am. Now I'm going to go through a few things this morning to help you get the most out of the summit today. First up, I want to draw your attention to the questions box on your webinar control panel. Now if you haven't already said hi, there is a huge audience out there today. So many of your industry colleagues and peers all gathered together for this summit. So reach out, give a wave to the other members of the ActualTech Media community. Now we also want this to be an informative webinar for all of you, which means that we want to see those technical questions. So throughout today's summit, we hope you will get engaged. Make sure to ask all those questions, post those comments. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're reading, what you're talking about. We want to hear from you, and we'll dig into all of those together today. Now, not only will we have team members responding to you during the live webinar, we will also have dedicated Q&A sessions at the end of each presentation. And if we do not get to your question during a live session, don't worry, because the awesome humans from Rubrik, 1111 Systems, Zerto, Okta, and AppDynamics will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, now the next stop on our guided tour of your audience console is that Twitter button, because we all know that good things should be shared. And today on the summit, you are going to hear some awesome, exciting, and brain-tingly things that you're going to want to share with your community. So you can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's summit will automatically get added to your post. All right, while you're exploring the audience console, our last stop today on our tour is that Handouts tab. This is a gooder. Make sure you spend some time in that Handouts tab. There are so many fantastic resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info-packed collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So click around in that Handouts section and download some of those awesome resources. I know you're going to want them for some light afternoon reading once we get out of our summit today. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Jess Steinbach with ActualTech Media. I'm so happy to be one of your moderators for this incredible summit today. I'm a little under the weather if you can hear. I'm hoping my voice holds all the way through the day here today. But as always, I'm energized by all of you out there, so I know it'll be a great day. We are also joined by my wonderful friends and fellow moderators, Scott Becker, David Davis, and Keith Ward will be here with us on live chat today, so you have the whole all-star mod squad lineup with us today. All right, well, as always, it is not just awesome content that we are giving away, and if you thought our list of presenters was impressive, you better believe we have a grand prize list to match it, so let me walk you through. Now, today we will be giving away one of 3 Acer gaming laptops. We will be giving away 3 Kindle Scribes and 5 Bose portable speakers, and that is not even including the $300 Amazon gift certificates that we will be giving away every 30 minutes. Now, as a reminder, you do need to be here live in attendance at the summit in order to qualify for any of those prizes. All winners must meet the ActualTech Media prize terms and conditions. Hey, if you're saying to yourself right now, that sounds good, but I don't know what those T's and C's are, Jess, no problem. Head on over to the Handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you will find the full terms and conditions waiting for you there. All right, now we will be following up with all winners after we wrap up the summit today, but I do have a few sort of reminders up on the screen for you here, including the fact that all grand prize winners are required to submit an IRS Form W-9 to ActualTech Media. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier that question section, and that was where you could reach out and say hi, hello, and hang out with the other members of our community here today. I do also want to mention that that's a great place to let us know if you're having any technical issues. Now, a browser refresh is going to fix just about any of the issues with slides, audio, video, but if not, if the tech gremlins are really clinging on today, just throw a comment in that question section and our crew will be there to help. But That said, the absolute most important thing is to remember that we love getting all of your insightful technical questions throughout the webinar. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all of you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's summit, we will be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked in each of our live sessions. So each of our live sessions, and I'm going to remind you that we review all the questions asked after we wrap. So even if we don't get to your question during the live Q&A, don't worry because you are still entered to win. All right, now, if you are a lucky winner here today, you do always have the option to donate the value of your prize to one of the selected charities you see up on the screen here. Thanks to generous prize winners on previous ActualTech Media webinars, thousands of dollars have been donated to these wonderful organizations. So if you are a lucky winner, when we follow up with you about your prize, let us know if this is something you want to explore, and we would love to help make that happen. Again, we are so happy to have you here live with us at the summit today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So connect with us on social media. You can use that Twitter button we talked about earlier. Also, make sure you're following us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on all the things. Just find us on all the things. We want to hear from you. We want to connect with you. We want to keep this conversation going. There is so much great content for you on all of these resources as well, especially that YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed to the ActualTech Media YouTube channel, please do. All of the incredible webinars are available there on demand. So just about any topic that you could have in mind, there is something for you there. So be sure that you have followed and are checking that out after we wrap. All right, now one more cool thing. This is an opportunity for the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out the application, and the ActualTech Media crew will match you with some of the vendors that we think you should be chatting with based on your specific needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you can choose to join in, like additional surveys, test running new solutions, extended demos, and so on. Now, you'll get some chances to win a few extra prizes. You'll chat with some great people. And most importantly, you will learn about the hottest new trends in tech as it's coming. So be sure to apply, or if you don't think you're the decision maker, hopefully you know if you're the decision maker or not in your crew, but either way, feel free to send that to someone on your team. All right, and last but definitely not least, I have said this before, I will say it again, all of you are awesome, and we're sure that you know lots of awesome people who might enjoy some of this information as well. So another fun way to win a prize and to grow this incredible community of humans that we have here with us today is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the ActualTech Media webinar series. Now, you will find the link to do that right there in your handouts tab. You also get automatically redirected at the end of the summit. I do want to promise you that we will not spam your friends or your coworkers. In fact, we send them one invitation to a list of upcoming webinars. If they don't respond, they get one reminder, and then that is it. Then both you and your coworker could win a $300 Amazon gift card. We hold those drawings every month, so be sure to refer somebody great because, hey, that's a win-win situation right there. All right, well, we've covered a lot of great stuff already, and that brings us around to our keynote. To kick things off, I asked the one and only David Davis, my friend and wonderful fellow moderator here at ActualTech Media, to come and chat with us about those two dreaded words, spring cleaning. All right, so let's get David on out here with us.
All right, well, here we are in April already. And for some of us, it is only just kind of maybe starting to feel a little spring-like. And for others of you out there, it is full-blown sunshine and rainbows. I don't want to name any names, but David over there was jet skiing all weekend in the sunshine while I was in the snow. But wherever you are in the world right now, for many of us, spring means one thing, and that is spring cleaning. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to tell you to go out and clean your fridge or organize your garage, although yes, I should probably do both of those things. But I am going to ask you if you have started spring cleaning in your organization's tech environment, because my guess is that a lot of you have apps, resources, or solutions that you are underusing or not using all the way to their full potential. And this could be because maybe some of them were implemented without you knowing or being aware. Maybe the solution has new updates that you haven't been able to fully explore or add in. Maybe you've done everything perfectly in terms of implementation and updating, but the end users in other teams are not fully trained and they're not able to use the tools to their full advantage. Whatever the case, now is a great time to take stock of what you have, how you're using it, and if you can use it any better. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And we are joined, as you can see, by an awesome expert and my fellow moderator here at ActualTech Media, David Davis, here with us to give his top spring cleaning tips for tidying up your IT environment. David, thank you so much for being here with us today. And my first question to you, my friend, is, have you started spring cleaning at your house?
I've started, here and there. I always try to be cleaning. You know what they say, ABC, always be cleaning, right? You don't say that, Jess? No?
I do not say that.
No, I don't either. I'm just kidding. But I do try to always keep things clean so I don't have to, go in and spend a week or a month, trying to do all the cleaning at once. It's always easier if you can just keep things in order all the time.
That's some great life advice, David, and I'm going to do my best to start following that a little bit better. But okay, so for those of us that haven't been maybe upkeeping quite as much, and we're thinking about that big initial spring clean, whether we're talking about our houses here or our IT environments, David, what do you do to get started?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I always did, like as a kid, my mom would tell me to go clean my room. And the first thing I would do is I would take out everything that I owned, like from the toy box, all the shelves. I would lay it out all over the floor. And then at that point, my mom would walk in and say, "Oh my gosh, what have you done? This is a mess." And I'd say, no, this is my plan. The first thing I do is I take everything out. I look at everything I have, and then I decide if I need to get rid of anything or where all these things are going to go, how they're best going to fit together. And so I think when it comes to IT, that might be a good place to start, especially for us visual people. I'm a visual person. I have to see things to know what I have. So, take an inventory of everything in your IT organization, and put it in its place. It could be as simple as a spreadsheet, and then from there, you can then start your cleaning process. Which of these areas are you lacking in? Which of these areas needs refreshing or cleaning out, or is just out of date, or needs some new technological innovation?
That's such a great point. And I'm 100% in the same boat with you, David. I make things much worse before I make them any better. I have to get that visual insight. And I think for a lot of us out there, we do have that checklist as we get started. So, I'll start with this room, and then I'll do the fridge, and then I don't know, I'm really fixated on cleaning my fridge. I think I might need to clean my fridge. And then the storage units. But, when it comes to IT spring cleaning, what is that checklist? Or where does that checklist start? What are you cleaning?
Yeah, I mean, if it were me right now in IT, I would start immediately with security, because we're hearing about, malicious attacks, ransomware every night, it seems like, in the evening news or on the internet. And so I would start with security. Think about the basics, the principle of least privilege, who has access to the keys of the kingdom. A lot of these attacks happen because someone had access that they shouldn't have had, and that access was misused. Maybe it's an employee who left the company a long time ago, or maybe it's an account that you accidentally gave administrator privileges. Also look at default usernames and passwords, and there's a lot of administrative accounts like that out there for special services and things that should really be reviewed. Maybe it's now time to look at multi-factor authentication and finally put that in place. If you haven't put that in place, do another push to your end users. I'm sure that solutions from like Okta, who's going to be presenting on the event today, could really help with that.
Okay. Well, so David, as we're going through and making our checklists and I think, again, if any of this is feeling overwhelming to somebody out there, the best piece of advice that we hear from experts all the time is to just not do nothing. That was a double negative. Do something is the takeaway. So even if it's just auditing that access list, even if it's just auditing that application list, to pick one thing and kind of do that audit. And David, other than the wonderful, warm glow of self-satisfaction that we all get when we go through this lovely cleaning process at the end, what is the benefit to spring cleaning our IT environments?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest benefit, of course, is cost, the money you're going to save. And that money comes in different flavors. If it's a SaaS service, let's say in the cloud, you're measured by the time that this virtual machine is powered on, or the size of the storage, that you're consuming. And so when you get rid of that storage or that VM and you clean it up, immediately you're going to see a difference, in your bill. But in other areas, it might be, a little bit more of a gray area where, let's say, getting rid of an aging server. Well, how much time did you have to spend, administering that server and paying for the licenses and the service plan and maintenance and things like that. So it really all comes back to time and money and efficiency that you're going to gain.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And David, you were telling me a story the other day that you had this happen to you in your house, that you didn't realize you were paying for Alexa.
Yeah, on my credit card bill this month, I saw a charge from Alexa, which I thought was strange. I don't normally have charges from Alexa. And so I had to do some digging, and I found out that I was paying $8.47 a month for the Trivia Question of the Day app on Alexa. Certainly one of my kids, enabled that. But it just brings me back to, all these services that we have, how easy it is for those services to sprawl without our knowledge, without constant audit and review. Our storage is sprawling, virtual machines, containers, applications, number of users, and we really need to review it periodically, get all of that cost under control.
That's such a good point. I think there is sort of two sides then that we're talking about. And the one is that kind of auditing and maybe removing things that you're spending that you don't need to be spending on, or that you're not utilizing. And then that other side of it is growing how much we utilize our existing infrastructure. I think there's some great stats out there talking about the amount of unused or underutilized technology that we have in our organizations, that the solution offers this much services and we're using this much. And sometimes it's not that we that we don't want to. We might not know that these additional services are available. They might have been added on later. Maybe, we forgot to do training on that, and so we're not utilizing that. Whatever the case may be, I think some of what we're talking about here is this two-pronged approach. And one is reducing the things that don't need to be spent, and then fully using, before we buy anything else, fully using the existing solutions that we have and making sure we're getting the most out of them. And David, when I think about my spring cleaning that I do around my house, I have to trick myself into doing it. So I play music and put on movies or something. And obviously the best case scenario would be to have a bunch of friends over. Now, I'm probably not going to get my friends to come over and help me with, cleaning out my garage, but we have some wonderful friends here with us today, and hopefully they'll be able to help make this spring cleaning process a little bit more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should have mentioned earlier, I'm looking forward to the presentation from App Dynamics, because I know they're going to help us to visualize. We talked about taking an inventory and visualizing everything we have. They're going to help us to visualize everything that's going on in our infrastructure, our applications, and how they're working together. And then kind of bonus area of cleaning I want to make sure that I bring up before we go, and that is data protection and disaster recovery. Because if your security systems fail, that last line of defense is going to be your data protection and your disaster recovery playbook. So make sure that those are up to date, especially if you're changing things in your organization, and things are constantly changing. You've got different applications, different cloud services, different sets of data sets that all need to be protected. So make sure that your data protection and DR are up to date. And I know we're going to have presentations here from 1111 with Zerto and Rubrik. So some great options to learn about on the summit today.
Yeah, this is going to be such a great day. I can't wait to dive in. On that note, I think let's get the music on. Let's get our friends out here. Let's get this spring cleaning rolling. David, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
All right. Well, I have to say I saw a few of you posted in there that you'd rather be spring breaking than spring cleaning, and I agree with you. Also, Sam gets the pun award for the day. Sam says, sounds like a trivial hidden charge. Nice, Sam. And thank you to all of you sending me some good wishes for the return of my voice. It's getting there. All right. Well, moving things along, I have a question for all of you up on the screen here. We have a question wondering about the time frame for all of you. When you're thinking about all of the cool things we're going to be hearing today. And supercharging IT it's a big field, right? There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to consider, and you could really come at that from a 100 different ways, if not more. So this is a bit of a tough question, but when you're thinking about wanting to really enhance that IT environment for your organization, are you mostly thinking shorter term? Do you have more urgent needs? Do you have things that need to get dealt with right away? Or are you thinking a little bit longer term, things, maybe for the future, maybe for next year or the year after? And if you're not sure at all and you're just coming in with a totally open mind, open book, that's fine too. So take a second now and click on that poll. And then we're going to move things along and get started in our summit. Dun, 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 dun. All right, well, it is my pleasure to introduce you all to our very first presenter in today's virtual summit. Many of you will recognize this name, and you will already know that we are in for a treat because our very first speaker here with us today is Leo Vela, Inside Sales Engineer at Rubrik. Leo, thank you so much for being here to get us started today. I'm so excited to hear what you have in store for us. I know we want to leave some time for Q&A at the end, so I will step back and hand the mic on over to you. Take it away, Leo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited to be able to talk to you about Rubrik and how we can help you out with your ransomware recovery needs. So it means a lot to me that you're joining me today, and I hope you can walk away with a lot of content, specifically around how Rubrik can help you recover after a cyber event. Now, while Rubrik specifically is a backup platform, we focus a lot on what value we can bring you in terms of being able to recover after a ransomware attack. Thus, the statement you're looking up right here, backup does not mean cyber recovery. Now, what do I mean by that exactly? If we take a look at the problem itself that's affecting businesses, it's that we're under attack by ransomware gangs. And the whole point is a lot of organizations have invested a lot of money into perimeter security, network, application, and endpoint security. But at the end of the day, whether they be Fortune 500 companies or small, medium business organizations, they still find their way into the data. And that being said, when it comes to last point of defense against something like a ransomware attack, it becomes critical that you rely on that backup data to help you restore from that event without having to pay that ransom. That's what we want to avoid at the end of the day, and we want to do it quickly. Unfortunately, the ransomware gangs that essentially evolve quarter after quarter caught onto this. They find out backup copies of that data are something that they should be targeting. And I imagine your current backup architecture looks something like this. You have your production servers that are most likely being virtualized on hosts that either run backup proxies, backup servers, even utilize a disk-based storage target. And of course, you have your SAN array separate from that environment that it's attached to. Now, the problem with this is chances are you're probably using SMB or NFS protocols to communicate from that disk-based backup target to the rest of your environment. Those backup proxies and servers might be running on Windows operating systems. And are you utilizing anything like multi-factor authentication, temporary one-time password, single sign-on? Most likely not. And unfortunately, this architecture, while it works, it gets you the backups you need. It is not developed in a time in the cloud era and the era of ransomware attacks, but prior to, let's say, even virtualization. So it's not built for the integrity of that type of attack. And you might say to yourself, well, we also have data up in the cloud, Azure, AWS, maybe even Google Cloud. Unfortunately, some of the same concepts apply there. Can you get that same data resilience at the point of the cloud? Well, you certainly have native backup technologies that are provided by each of those organizations. It's a very manual, error-prone process. Now, when we're talking about multiples of resource groups, subscriptions, and many services in below those levels, well, essentially, we're going to have a hard time managing that all together. And let's say we did manage to have backups. We found our backups. They are completely untouched by ransomware. Well, what do I do next? I have them, but what do I recover? Is it going to be everything in an environment? How do I know what's been hit? And when do I know it was hit? I'm sitting in the dark here. Next, unfortunately, is another scenario we have to consider with ransomware attacks. More and more often, we're seeing a double extortion. Not only paying for the ransom of getting your data back, but they've also exfiltrated what you would consider sensitive data, PII, HIPAA data, so on and so forth. Do you know if that was in scope of the ransomware attack? And even if you were to successfully restore a virtual machine or object back into production, how can you be so sure that you did not just restore the malware that caused that encryption in the first place? Therefore, you're still at risk for re-encryption. Now, with all that in mind, a lot of the executive boards, C-suites that we're talking to are asking questions for their team. Are we good from a ransomware attack? Can you prove that we can restore from a ransomware attack, and how long would it take? At the end of the day, downtime is something we want to avoid as soon as possible. So without knowing the answer to any of these questions, even if we have clean backups, we might still be at risk of paying the ransom at the end of the day. And of course, I wouldn't be painting the story of all these problems if Rubrik wasn't able to fix it ourselves. Introducing Rubrik Security Cloud. It acts as the single point of management to bring you true data resilience, observability, and remediation via a zero trust design. So we can utilize objects like multi-factor authentication, single sign-on capabilities, and temporary one-time passwords. Here's a little bit of how it works. Whether you're backing up your Azure, AWS, GCP environment, your on-premises data center objects like your hypervisors or bare metal servers, or your Microsoft 365 SaaS applications. What we're doing is we're providing the mutability at that first copy, along with a logical air gap. We're not communicating via SMB or NFS protocols, but rather through non-routable API calls. Our file system is append only. Once it's written on to the system, it can no longer be deleted, overwritten, and of course encrypted. And we're utilizing the metadata of the backups via a time series of data in order to take this protection even further. Now, this in all is what we consider modern data protection, but that's not where Rubrik stops. With the usage of metadata and time series data, we're able to utilize more tools like encryption detection. Now, there's questions about whether or not what you knew to restore and when to restore. That's what the encryption detection is for. We're utilizing machine learning technology to analyze the metadata of the backups as we're ingesting them. So we know exactly what was encrypted, when it was encrypted. So when it comes to recovery, it's as simple as a couple clicks to get things back up and running in your environment. We're also able to use analyzers to discover what type of sensitive data is in your environment, where it's sitting, and how much of it there really is. So when you are hit by an exfiltration event, you know that one, you're safe because everything's encrypted and in exactly the place it should be. Then there's the question of, well, how do I know I'm not recovering everything back into my environment, including the malware? That's what we have threat hunting and quarantining for. We're able to utilize scanning via YARA rules or file hashes and patterns to detect indicators of compromise, essentially fingerprints that these groups leave behind. And when we find those indicators of compromise, we can find the true clean point in time to restore from and quarantine all those backups with the files that we have so we don't accidentally set it back into our environment for the risk of re-encryption. Thus, true, safe, and data resilience after a ransomware attack. And of course, it would be great to assess the risk of your environment and recover testing so you know exactly how long it's going to take to recover after a ransomware attack with proven numbers to give to, let's say, your C-suite, auditors, cyber insurance companies, so on and so forth. That's the Rubrik Security Cloud. So I've already covered this quite a bit. But if there's anything I want you to take away from, it's that everything's consolidated into one platform. Rubrik guarantees you the recoverability of data via the data resilience we're giving you with the immutability, air gapping, and zero trust controls, giving you the ability to test that resiliency to reduce risk. And of course, giving you visibility of those attacks to make sure that you don't waste any time after a cyber event. Backup is just a copy of your data, but having these capabilities is what gives you true purpose with cyber recovery. And you really, really don't have to take our word for it. I'm sure you recognize a few of the names on this slide here. More than 5,000 customers, each and every one of them that have experienced a ransomware attack, and they're utilizing Rubrik, they've recovered all of their data without having to pay any of the ransom to do so. And of course, I want to go ahead and walk through a bit of a demo for you so you can get an idea of what you'd be getting with the platform itself. So remember, we're bringing data resiliency via automated backups. If you go to SLA domains, here is where we set up our backup environment. Click Create. Let's go ahead and click into vSphere VMs, and let's say we have a few SQL Server databases. All I have to do is name my business requirement for each of these objects, which, by the way, can be consolidated into just one policy. I don't have to stagger out backup schedules, create different jobs for different objects. If I want all of my VM machines, my VMware machines or SQL Server databases under one policy, I have that capability, but it's up to you to create that business requirement. For this example, I'll just choose a daily backup, which will retain for a month, and monthly backups, which will retain for a year. And after the first full backup of each of these increments, well, they're incremental forever. So there's smaller backups after that first time. So no more having to wait for those full weekly backups of multiple terabyte databases that you have to worry about lasting for a whole day with the whole potential of them failing. Just back up what's occurred in between those increments to slow down that backup time. Next is archiving. We don't want you to have to use the Rubrik device, the Rubrik cluster, for the entirety lifecycle of your backup data. We want to give you the capability to utilize the most cost-efficient storage out there. In many cases, that's the public cloud. So there's flexibility of whether you want to use AWS, Azure, GCP, object storage buckets, or even the opportunity to use Rubrik Cloud Vault, which is Rubrik's managed archival location, which on the back end is Azure Cool Tier Storage. So if I want to keep my dailies on premises, I'll uncheck that. But for my monthlies, after a 30-day period, it'll be sent into that archival target that I just configured. Let's see here. For replication, if I have a secondary site, disaster recovery site, where I want to replicate into a separate object, I have my primary Rubrik cluster, which, just like with archiving, I'll define how long I want that item to sit at the secondary Rubrik appliance. Replication is as simple as that. If I want to get application consistency for my SQL Server databases, I can identify that I want log backups taken, granted that we have them on full recovery mode, those SQL Server databases, and I can keep those log backups for up to 14 days. Additionally, I can get point-in-time restorations for my virtual machines that are most mission critical to me. So the journaling with change block tracking via VMware is being communicated back onto Rubrik. So I have those points in times that I can recover from. And just like that, I have my SLA domain. As simple as that. Now, those are the backup policies themselves. If we go to the global dashboard here, you can see the consolidated view with everything in a SaaS application. This is Rubrik Security Cloud. So whether you have your data center items, your SaaS applications, your cloud items, it's all viewable on this individual platform. Now, when it comes to the visibility of your data, there's the ransomware monitoring piece. You can see here, we have 8 anomalous events. What exactly is going on? This machine learning tool, as I alluded to earlier, is essentially looking at the change rates of the objects in your environment. So not only is it merely anomaly detection, but we're able to look at encryption that's occurring. So it's looking at entropy events specifically. And you can see here, with these 8 objects, we see thousands of files that have been encrypted. So this one, let's say I need up and running as soon as possible. I click in, click recover. See here, it's automatically selecting the snapshot prior to that encryption event. So I'm no longer in the dark throwing darts, but I'm able to pinpoint my recovery. If I click change selected snapshot, the most recent snapshot, well, it's encrypted, anomalous behavior detected. I won't want to recover from there, but rather from the snapshot prior. I know that I will have a clean snapshot if I recover from here or any time before. So a lot of time is saved rather than having to play a guessing game. You also have the capability of digging into file level investigation of what was encrypted. So if you click in, you see the file directory. Let's follow the Z drive. File shares, and you can see clearly that the shares have multiple files that have been encrypted. And just like we thought, this original file has been deleted and replaced with a suspicious encrypted version of this file. So we can recover files totally here. We can download a CSV at any point to have a snapshot of what the attack looked like. And that's essentially the recovery. Now, that's great for the visibility. Now, what's the threat hunting piece? Well, from here, essentially, this is where we're going to search for the indicators of compromise. So we know that we're not going to accidentally restore something that we didn't need to. If we start a threat hunt, you'll see that we can use URLs, file hashes, or file patterns to identify those indicators of compromise. And believe it or not, majority of ransomware attacks are detectable because they are known vulnerabilities. So file hashes and file patterns still have their use, but for zero-day attacks, the URLs are very useful. I'll use a URL for this example. If I choose everything in this example, we can move forward. We'll choose the virtual machines that we want to scan. Let's say this 3. Give my threat hunt a name. And from here, I can either scan the individual backup, but more likely what I'm going to want to do is scan over a period of time. So I can scan all the way, let's say in January till today. So whatever is going on, I'm scanning more than one backup at a time. So it'll give me an idea how long that malware has been sitting in my environment. I can optimize the scan and then confirm the threat hunt. And if we look at the completed one here, you can see we picked up a few files that we ended up quarantining. So amongst these 3 virtual machines, we have some files that got picked up. If we check this one, we have 3 files that were picked up by this file pattern. And you can see here in this column, they've been in the system for 162, 165, and 214 days. And since I have backups with this file sitting in my Rubrik cluster, I want to quarantine them. My colleague here already has them quarantined here in the demo environment, but essentially I would mark them, quarantine, and it's as simple as that. I'm safe from re-encryption. Lastly, I want to check on sensitive data discovery. Here, we get an idea of what type of data that we want to search for. So if we go to assign a policy, create a policy, we have analyzers that are predefined. So whether they be UK banking numbers, United States PII, healthcare information, IP addresses, anything that you want to be aware of in your environment, you either have predefined analyzers that you can sort through or create one your own to search for that string of data. You can use a regular expression or a dictionary CSV term that you can test yourself here by the validation tool. And then based on what you want to scan for, you can add it to your individual virtual machines. And that is that. Once you have your policy, you can see here and scan for the sensitive objects, open access sensitive files. That's essentially options that are in file shares that may have more permissions than you would want them to have. So if we go down here to high, that high alert, you can see it's high risk. Quite a few sensitive hits in the C and Z drive. If I go in here, I can see what type of data is in that item, how many hits based on individual files, and what type of permissions each individual user has. So with this type of insight via the global dashboard and Rubrik Security Cloud, we're able to help you out to recover from a ransomware attack as soon as possible, all with the help with a ransomware response team. You will not be alone through that ransomware recovery process, but with any purchase of any Rubrik support contract, you get access to a support overlay team that runs through these recoveries with our customers every single time they get hit. So we have confidence in our solution. Once again, I really appreciate everyone joining me today. I will set aside some time here and hopefully answer some questions that you have for me. Once again, thank you for joining.
Well, thank you, Leo. And we've got that poll up for all of you out there. And we'd like to know what additional information you would like about the Rubrik solution. I saw a lot of great questions coming in. We're going to get to those in just a moment. Also, some high fives. Lots of people really enjoying the demo. I have to agree, Leo, that demo was excellent. It's so great to see things in action. Everybody likes the look of the Rubrik platform. It's got a real, and I know that was in the last year or so that you guys redid that. It looks great, Leo.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to hear. Sorry, can you all hear me still?
We can hear you. Yeah, okay. I thought we lost you for a second. Hi there.
Yeah. No worries. Glad to hear everyone enjoyed the demo. And yeah, it seems like we're getting a lot of questions. I'd be happy to save some time to answer a few here.
Yeah, let's jump in. Okay, I'm going to start with this one here because I saw a few folks kind of wondering about that immutable storage. And so this one, I have immutable storage for my backups already. So why would I need Rubrik to protect myself against ransomware if that's already in place?
Yes, that's a very excellent question. And, immutable storage is just one of many ways that you can protect yourself against ransomware attacks. However, it's just one box that you have to check in order to make sure that your backups are truly enabled to be deleted. There are a couple scenarios where you have to be aware that your current system can prevent access. What I mean by that is even though your system might prevent outright deletion or an encryption of your backup files, what if we were to change retention policies of those backups? You have retention for the backup for, let's say, a year. Someone gets access to that environment. They decide to move that retention from 1 year all the way down to just 1 day. And before anyone notices, those backups are gone, immutable or not. And secondly, of course, we're communicating with an NTP server with legacy backup solutions. If someone were to utilize what we call NTP poisoning and fast forward time on the NTP server That's just another way to expire those retention policies, ignoring the so-called immutable factor that many organizations claim they have today. Now, of course, Rubrik has a couple ways to combat against that, which, to answer your question, we provide something called retention lock and a monotonic clock. The retention lock policy is meant to prevent tampering of different SLA domains, deletion of SLA domains, or lowering retention of those policies. And a monotonic clock separates the Rubrik software from the NTP server. So when there's a tampering event where someone tries to fast forward time, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because we're only moving 1 second forward each second as opposed to what the NTP server is communicating back to Rubrik. So that, amongst just having a logical air gap and zero trust controls, giving you all the security you would need, that's really why I would suggest Rubrik.
All right. Well, we are very short on time, but I'm going to sneak in one last question because there's so many in here. I'm going to go with this one from Bing because I think it's something that a lot of folks are wondering about. And what he's asking is, would Rubrik actively scan the backup to ensure that there's no malware before recovering, from the backup to make sure that they're not recovering further infected data?
Yeah. So there's really a two-step process here. Because remember, at the end of the day, we're scanning the backups as we're ingesting them. Mm-hmm. So let's say you get hit by ransomware. You back up that encrypted virtual machine or object. As soon as we detect those change rates on that object, that's when we're going to receive those anomalous alerts that I just showed you in the demo. From there, that'll give you a point in time to recover from before that previous attack had occurred. So you can have confidence without having to throw darts at a board whether or not you're going to get a clean backup. And the second step to that process is making sure that we can scan for those indicators of compromise so we're able to determine we're not going to be restoring the malware or any type of remote access tools that caused that encryption in the first place to accidentally be restored back into the environment, because that could cause re-encryption, realistically.
All right. Well, Leo, as I said, I wish we could keep going, and there's a lot of questions we're not getting to. So if you have some time to stick around on live chat, and we'll make sure that all these questions get to your team. Before you take off, though, if somebody wants to jump in and get started with Rubrik right away, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who do, what do you recommend as that first step to getting started?
Absolutely. There's 2 steps I think you should take. One is you can reach out to us directly. Go to Rubrik.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and fill out the Contact Us form. And we'll have one of our account executives reach out to you to schedule a discussion with your account manager and a solutions engineer. Secondly, if you have a preferred partner or reseller, ask them if you can see and set up a meeting with Rubrik so we can go ahead and have that conversation with your preferred partner.
Perfect. All right. A great way to get started. Leo, thank you so much for being here to kick off the summit today. It has been a pleasure chatting with you as always, and I appreciate your time.
Likewise. Everyone have a good day.
Well, we definitely will, and great to kick it off on such a great note. For those of you out there who filled out the poll, thank you for doing that. I'm also going to suggest that you head on over to the Handouts tab. Be sure to get the Rubrik white paper, Rubrik Security Cloud Architecture and Security Implementation. You can explore Rubrik's mission to secure the world's data. It's a great mission, and how their solutions can help you increase your protection and resiliency capabilities. Really interesting information, so download that now. Save that for after we wrap. But for now, and I'm going to leave that poll up for another minute here, I'm going to give away a couple of prizes, our first prize giveaway. So I will remind you again that you do need to be here live and present at the summit in order to win. We're going to start out with a $300 Amazon gift card, and this one is going to Kenneth Priestas of Illinois. Kenneth Priestas of Illinois, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. And then we've got 5 Bose portable speakers that we will be giving away. I'm going to read these out quickly here. John Glover of Indiana, David Nizer of Ohio, Oner Olmez of California, Ashley Emanuel of Texas, and Jen Jones of Missouri. I'm going to do that one more time. If you hear your name, you've won one of these Bose portable speakers. John Glover of Indiana, David Nizer of Ohio, Oner Olmez of California, Ashley Emanuel of Texas, and Jen Jones of Missouri. Congratulations, folks, on your new Bose speakers. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prizes after we wrap. Now, don't forget, there's still lots more chances to win a prize today, and that best question gift card coming in after we wrap up the entire summit. So keep those questions coming, because we will review all questions asked and follow up with the winners after we wrap. I love seeing everyone saying congrats to the winners. It's nice you guys all have such good vibes out there today. What a great community and crew we have here with us. Well, speaking of things that are awesome and great, let's move things along in our summit here today, because up next, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our next two presenters in today's virtual summit. And this is extra exciting because we have two awesome teams who are joining us now to talk about their solutions and how they work together. So we will be hearing from Alex Reed, Product Architect at 1111 Systems, and Mike Nassas, Product Marketing Manager at Zerto. I love this dynamic duo. Alex and Mike, I can't wait to hear what you have in store for us today, so I will hand the mic right on over to you both. Take it away, team.
All right. Thank you so much. Can you guys, everybody hear me all right?
We got you loud and clear.
All right, that's awesome. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. My name is Mike Nassas. I'd like to take the next 10 minutes or so to talk to you about how Zerto can help you achieve an uninterrupted 24/7 business, even in the face of emerging threats like ransomware. After that, I'll hand it off to Alex. He's a product architect from one of our great managed service providers, 1111 Systems. He'll talk to you more in depth about how their disaster recovery as a service solution can keep you completely protected from threats like ransomware. And before I forget, I also want to give a shout out to Anthony Dutra, who's a technical marketing manager at Zerto. He's also online, and he'll be assisting with Q&A. So he's always very helpful, and grateful to have him assisting with that. So let's just jump right in. Little bit of context here around ransomware. It's a continued and growing threat, and it's really become a C-level priority for all organizations that we speak to. Unfortunately, it's no longer a niche threat. It's really part of the larger picture related to disruptions. By 2031, so in 8 years, it's the fastest growing type of cybercrime, and it's expected to hit a business, consumer, or device every 2 seconds. So that's an incredible number right there, and the total cost is estimated to be upwards of $265 billion as well by that year. So it's this is all less than a decade away. So this is a huge challenge that I'm sure you all have faced, or unfortunately inevitably will probably face at some point down the line. So to succeed as a business in today's world, there's really no tolerance for downtime from any type of disruption. And when it comes to ransomware, that disruption can prove to be pretty costly. As you can see some of these figures on here, I won't go through them all one by one, but you can see they're pretty jarring. 3 weeks is the average disruption period of an attack. And when you factor in how much business you lose there, that's, pretty significant. So it's almost a foregone conclusion that you'll be hit with one of these attacks at some point. That's really the bad news. But the good news is the reason that Alex and I are here talking to you today, which is you can do something about it. And in fact, there's a lot you can actually do about it, which is starting with data protection. So data protection is a crucial component in solving for these ransomware challenges. On the front end of this slide, you kind of have the identification and detection pieces, and of course the response to it, to threat like ransomware. But on the back end, this is kind of where Zerto comes in and really shines. The recovery phases, or what we like to call the ransomware resilience phase, is really what we do best. So in particular, ransomware resilience is one of the 3 focus areas that we are really laser focused on and we kind of live and breathe. The other two being disaster recovery and multi-cloud mobility. So we're really going to focus more on the ransomware resilience part today. So we're really focused on all three of these to ensure that all of our customers can achieve this continuous protection regardless of the app or cloud or threat, really. And all of this is based on a foundation of our technology, which is called continuous data protection, or CDP, space that we actually pioneered and have been a leader for in the market for over a decade. So looking at the technology, our technology, what really makes it so special and what really helps to create this uninterrupted business from attacks like ransomware, it's really these key advantages that we have that we bring to the table. The first one is our best-in-breed hypervisor-based replication that is native and agentless to ensure what I just mentioned, which is this continuous data protection for your business, right? The second is the unique journaling technology to really ensure you can recover and resume from any point in time from seconds on up. And thirdly, we ensure that all of your data is moved or recovered as a single entity. So it's all a cohesive application consistency moving. And then we also do cloud mobility, which, we bring scale-out architecture that's built for the enterprise. And lastly, and probably most importantly, to I'm sure all of you out there who, are in the IT world, simplicity. It's at the core of everything we do. It's simplicity of deployment, of use, with things like built-in orchestration, analytics, which we'll get into. So these are really our differentiators from everybody else, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit more as we go on here. So this continuous data protection, or CDP, is really made possible with our near synchronous replication. So this is really the best of both worlds. It's less costly than synchronous replication, but there's also no performance impact like asynchronous with snapshots, for example. So we're really the best of both worlds. And because we sit at the hypervisor level, we could be completely agnostic. Any storage or hardware we play well with, and you're able to simply set it up, replicate, and it stays always on to keep you always protected. So I touched on this on the previous one of the previous slides, but our unique journaling is also another part that really makes our technology so powerful. It's this unique capabilities we have with our journaling in the background. So just being able to capture a write or an IO doesn't necessarily mean you have true CDP. It has to be paired with a dynamic, very efficient journal. So our journal actually tracks every single change made in your application or on your server, and it logs these as checkpoints every 5 to 10 seconds. So with a traditional backup, you might actually lose several hours of data, right? But with Zerto, let's say you get hit with a ransomware attack at 10 a.m. It's actually very easy to roll back to 9:59 and 55 seconds and completely mitigate that infection. So you're down to 5 seconds of data loss versus several hours. So that's obviously pretty powerful in and of itself. And then to solve for the challenge of recovering complex enterprise apps from a ransomware attack, let's say you really need to protect all your VMs as one cohesive unit. That way you avoid that inconsistent recovery of applications where each virtual machine is being restored to a different point in time. So our approach actually protects and recovers at a granular level, and you're able to recover in the same state that you left off on for all of your apps. So this saves a ton of resources when you're trying to reduce the amount of time dedicated to recovery, and it eliminates staggered backup windows and things like that. And then finally, the last part of our technology here, our orchestrated protection and recovery. The simplified recovery is really built. It's powered by a built-in orchestration engine. It's not a separate product that's been just bolted on top. With Zerto, you actually are able to simply select the applications or servers you want to recover, pick the exact point in time you need down to the second, and then you can then start the failover or the restore process. So when there's a disruption or an outage or a ransomware attack, this kind of fast recovery is exactly how you can dramatically limit that downtime and get back up and running in seconds or minutes. And all of this technology, right? These are all great to talk about in theory, right? But in action is a different thing. So we actually have a customer called Tenkata. They manufacture protective fabric for firefighting, military, and other demanding occupations, right? They before Zerto were using antiquated backup tapes and disks as a recovery solution. They got hit with a ransomware attack, and they actually faced 12 hours of data loss in 2 weeks of recovery. Of course, their services are just far too critical to be down that long, and of course, the impact on revenue was pretty significant. So they decided to adopt Zerto. They believed that this would, if something happened again, Zerto could drastically help change this. So lo and behold, they got hit with a ransomware attack again. However, this time they had Zerto implemented, and they went from facing 12 hours of data loss to 10 seconds. And instead of taking 2 weeks to recover, it took less than 10 minutes. So just think about that, from weeks of recovery from weeks of recovery to minutes, and from several hours of data loss to 10 seconds. So I think, that just speaks for itself. It's a very powerful solution, and if you're looking to be completely protected and have that uninterrupted business, then you really don't need to look any further than Zerto. So finally, before I hand it off to Alex, a quick summary of what we do. Our differentiators are very simple. We get your business back up and running in minutes with only seconds of data loss, all with the flexibility to be able to test without disruption. So next time anything happens, anything goes wrong, you really have the confidence that, hey, we have Zerto, we'll be just fine. With that, I will hand it off to Alex.
Great, thanks so much, Mike. Hey, everybody, this is Alex Reed, product architect with 1111 Systems. Michael has done a great job at explaining the differentiators that make us so confident building our disaster recovery platform around Zerto. A little bit of background on 1111, we're a cloud service provider. We provide services across cloud hosting, connectivity, and security services. So in the case of Zerto, we have built a disaster recovery product around Zerto that layers on our hosting and networking platforms. And we use it to provide both inter-cloud, so from multiple sites between our internal cloud, as well as failing premise sites into our cloud hosting solution. So we utilize Zerto for both of those use cases. We strongly believe that it's a best of breed solution that lets us be very confident in our platform to build with a low RTO and RPO, just like Michael was saying a moment ago, and some additional piece parts that can layer on top. So in keeping with the theme of talking about ransomware and cyber resiliency, there are some additional parts that we feel are pretty critical to layer on top of a great disaster recovery platform in order to become truly cyber resilient. So some of those are tactical piece parts. I'll go over a couple of them here that we have available to layer on top of disaster recovery. And some of them are more strategic in nature. So I'll go over that. As a sneak peek, Michael mentioned NIST at the very beginning of his presentation. That's something that I'm going to go over later on in mine as well. So talking about some of these piece parts, one of the first things that will happen after you fail over is you'll think about access, both network access for your customers as well as access for your internal employees to get the resources that they need. So one of the piece parts that you can layer on top of a DR solution is, in our case, SD-WAN. So we would deliver this as a way to seamlessly route traffic between multiple sites. So in this case, your primary and secondary sites. It's implemented on our side through 40 SD-WAN, which we feel is the best solution in this case. We call it hardware agnostic. Really, it's just because you can run a virtual appliance pretty much on any type of hardware to connect to your SD-WAN traffic management scheme. So you can implement this across virtual, physical, co-location, connections. That's all fine. And the big thing here is that it enables you to kick off a failover, and as long as your network management policies are in place, not really worry about the aftermath as far as your employees connecting in, because that's always going to be the first question once people realize that a failover has occurred, is, well, how do I get to the systems that I need to do my job? 40 SD-WAN has a few different features that we like in particular for this use case. One of them being that the 40 OS appliances come with full IDS and IPS functionality. So this lets you also implement traffic cleaning policies, essentially, that will do deep packet inspection on any of the traffic that moves across that FortiGate to make sure that whatever's coming into your secondary site from an application perspective is clean and is not going to compromise that secondary site. One other critical piece is failover testing. So, using those processes that Michael described as part of the Zerto failover, one of the things that you can do is test failover, where you'll pull up your system at your secondary site to make sure that everything is configured properly and that your applications are going to come up. And this is also this is partially an operational piece, and this is also a policy piece. So we're going to talk about operational drivers versus policy drivers in a couple of slides. But in this case, we feel pretty strongly as a service provider that testing your failover regularly, quarterly, if not more frequently, is a critical part of making sure you're resilient to things like cyber incidents. So for our part on the 1111 system side as a service provider, we have a couple of different ways to facilitate failover testing. In this case, I'm looking specifically at self-service testing. The interface that Michael showed earlier is the built-in Zerto failover interface. In our case, we have implemented our own single pane of glass console to make that management integrated with any other services you may have with us. So cloud hosting, networking, you can access all of that from this single pane of glass, which lets you test your failover in context with the rest of your infrastructure and the rest of your applications. So you can validate the resources that you have allocated to your secondary cloud environment. You can manage your networking and make sure that your external access is available. If you have the SD-WAN layer, like I mentioned a moment ago, that's accessible. You can kick off failovers directly from this interface, and you can also implement automated runbooks. So speaking of automation and automated runbooks, the third kind of layer that you can put on top of a DR service like this is what we call autopilot. As a managed service provider, this would be our managed disaster recovery service. Really, any managed service is going to accomplish the same goal, as long as your goals are going to be to remove that operational burden from your team. You're going to want to protect against misconfiguration. We do that through change management, documenting all of the changes that occur on the secondary side to make sure that in the event of a failover, all of your recent changes are accounted for. None of your applications are going to get lost in the mix or anything like that. We have all of that documented as part of the failover plan that we would develop with you. And we also build in automated testing and validation to all of this. So, this kind of builds on those two piece parts, those 2-point solutions that I mentioned a moment ago to facilitate being cyber resilient in the event of a ransomware disaster. Our experience as a service provider, we see that those are the first kind of things that our partners look for when they fail over, is the networking piece and the testing piece to make sure that all of their applications come up properly. And managed disaster recovery just puts all of the burden of that on the service provider, on us. So we can act as your disaster recovery department. However you want to abstract that out. That's that kind of final point solution that I wanted to talk about. Moving from tactical to strategic. So again, Mike had a great start talking about NIST. I want to touch on that a little bit more from a ransomware perspective, because like he said, ransomware is a top-down initiative. It's a board-level initiative at this point. So, companies, big and small, have to make sure that they have a plan in place to recover from a ransomware event. Because what we say in the security industry is now, it's not if, it's when. You have to assume, even with the best preventative measures in place, that some kind of ransomware event or, in more general cybersecurity event is going to occur. So that's why we need to look at business continuity from our perspective as a top-down initiative. And you can see this diagram that I have here shows the policy layer, management, and infrastructure layers all abstracted out separately. And we feel pretty firmly that that's how you have to construct your business continuity plan. So you can see from those first 5 layers or so, those are all covered by what we've spoken about so far. From, first of all, the infrastructure perspective from 11.11, we provide the secondary site, servers, and everything for your application to be hosted on. Zerto includes the technology to actually replicate that data in real time and facilitate the orchestration of the failover as well. And then we work together with our combined platform to facilitate the validation and testing to make it as painless as possible. So from that point up, then it becomes an exercise in implementing policy, making sure that you have those plans in place from a policy perspective in the event of a disaster. Because like I've been saying, the infrastructure and the piece point parts, the point solutions, are really only half the battle in the case of ransomware. To speak about this more generally, we can use the NIST cybersecurity framework to build ourselves a cyber resilient platform from both a premise perspective and a service provider perspective. So we use this internally at 11.11 to validate all of our security products and all of our disaster recovery products to make sure that they fit into these NIST framework functions. So I don't want to get too deep into our services that we provide, but I will mention as I go through this feedback loop here, and layer it on in order to achieve each function. So I'm going to actually start on the respond and recover side over here on the left, even though that's kind of the last part of responding to an incident, just because we're starting with Zerto, we're talking about disaster recovery. These things are really where Zerto excels, and where we traditionally think about disaster recovery as being implemented. So in the event of a cyber incident, you are pulling your servers back up. The other functions here are things like identifying, protecting, and detecting your infrastructure from risk. So identifying risk, you'll have services like vulnerability management or risk scanning. You'll be able to identify where your vulnerabilities in your infrastructure lie. You'll have things like protection, so endpoint detection and response, security incident and event management, or SIEM. Those are protective measures that you can take internally. Those lead into the detection. So real-time detection, again, EDR, SIEM, these are utilities that let you respond in real time. So these are 3 functions that kind of lay outside of the disaster recovery or data protection side of responding to ransomware, but they're still very important and crucial functions that your business continuity plan has to execute on. So some additional scope here, talking about cyber resiliency, making sure we can layer on these services, depending on what your use case is. There are a lot of different options that you have here, but the important thing is to view this as a feedback loop. I've given talks before about security as a process rather than security as point solutions. And talking about ransomware, it's more important than ever, because again, it's not if, it's when something like this happens. So that's how we conceptualize kind of implementing Zerto as a ransomware resiliency platform. We focus that on the respond and recover side of things. We make sure that our part in this is to make sure that the platform is as available and performant as possible, and make sure that your Zerto infrastructure is up and running and available to you for self-service, or however you want to layer on managed services on top of that to empower your operations team to respond to cyber incidents. Then that'll pretty much wrap it up for me. So we started off a bit tactical. We talked through some of the point solutions that 1111 layers on top of Zerto to improve cyber resiliency and to enable quick and easy cyber recovery. And then we pulled it back out to kind of that strategic start that Michael gave us on the Zerto side. So that'll do it for me. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And we've got a poll up on the screen for you all now. We'd like to know what additional information you would like to get about the 1111 systems and Zerto solutions. Such a cool team up. I love it. The power duo. And if you want some more information, click on that poll and let them know how they can follow up with you. Alex and Mike, thank you so much for that presentation. We are right up against time, and there are so many questions. Anthony has been doing some great work on live chat. We may have to switch the rest of the Q&A over to live chat and answer folks there. But before you guys leave us, if somebody wants to get started with Zerto and 1111 systems, what would you recommend as the very first step? I know we just had that QR code up. Is there anything else that you'd want people to know in terms of getting going?
Yeah, the QR code, that's a great place to start. You can always go to 1111systems.com. We have a contact button in the upper right-hand corner, and we can definitely get you started with evaluating the best solution for you to start with. We also have a pretty extensive partner network, so anybody who's partnered with us, you can take a look at them and make sure that you get matched up with someone who matches your needs. And Michael, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, I think that thank you.
Just about sums it up. Okay, well, thanks, guys. Honestly, absolutely jam-packed with information and a really fascinating talk. I wish we had a little more time to chat. We'll have to have you both back on again soon. And in the meantime, thanks for sticking around and answering some questions on live chat. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you both.
Thank you so much,
everyone.
All right, and thanks to everyone out there who took some time to fill out the poll. That is awesome. I love seeing all of those responses come in. That's such a great way to make sure that you get the information that you need. Again, I'm sorry that we don't have time to stop for Q&A, but as you're seeing, Anthony, Mike, Alex, they've all been responding or will continue responding on live chat, so keep those questions coming in, and we will get you some answers. We're going to keep rolling and move into a prize giveaway, but before I do that, I do want to remind you all to head on over to the Handouts tab. Be sure that you get the data sheet from 1111 Systems and Zerto. It's going to walk you through how you can recover your Zerto backups in the cloud with this industry leader in disaster recovery. A great read and a perfect follow-up to the chat that we just had with Alex and Mike. So be sure that you've got that downloaded and ready to read later today. All right, but now we have a prize giveaway. Let's do a $300 Amazon gift card to start. And I'll remind you again that you do need to be here live and present at the summit in order to win. So our next winner of the $300 Amazon gift card is Clint Rankin of Oklahoma. Clint Rankin of Oklahoma. Congratulations on your $300 Amazon gift card. And since we had two awesome teams here, you know what? I'm going to double it up. We're going to do two awesome prizes for that. So $300 Amazon gift card also going to David Sulak of Texas. David Sulak of Texas. So that was Clint Rankin of Oklahoma and David Sulak of Texas. Now we also have, wow, this just keeps going. What a prize giveaway. We also have 3 Kindle Scribes. So these 3 Kindle Scribes are going to go to Gwendolyn Crutcher of Alabama, Stacy Sanchez of California, and Jason Medina of Illinois. Again, that list, Gwendolyn Crutcher of Alabama, Stacy Sanchez of California, and Jason Medina of Illinois. Congratulations to all our winners. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prizes after we wrap up the webinar today. Now, don't forget, there are still lots more chances to win a prize, plus that best question card from each session. So keep those questions coming in. But for now, we're going to keep things moving along in this lovely summit here of ours. All right, and check this out, folks. We've got another powerhouse team and dynamic duo lined up for you all. I am so very excited to introduce you all to our next two fascinating speakers in the summit, and that is Sam Katzen, Group Product Marketing, and Maciel Martinez, Senior Product Marketing Manager, Identity Management at Okta. Sam and Maciel, thank you so much for being here to get us started. Now, Maciel, I think you're going to kick us off with a little bit of housekeeping of your own, so I will hand things on over to you. Take it away.
Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today on our session on Okta Identity Governance. Before we get too deep into the weeds, a few housekeeping notes. First of all, just so you know that the session will be recorded and you should all be receiving a copy sometime within the next 24 hours or so. Also, as I am going through the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat. We'll be answering them as we go along, and then we will likely have time at the end for some live Q&A as well. My name is Maciel Martinez, and I am a Senior Product Marketing Manager for Okta Identity Governance. And I am so excited to talk to you today about the new extended workforce and how adopting a unified IAM and IGA platform can help each of your companies with security and efficiency. But first, I want to give a quick thank you again to all of you for being here today. I also want to give a special thank you to our customers. At Okta, our #1 value is to love our customers, and we so appreciate and thank you for everything you do for us day in and day out. And to those of you who might be hearing our message for the first time, we want to say welcome, and we are thrilled to have you here. So let's get into it. So today, the modern workforce really goes beyond the traditional employee. It also includes contractors and partners that need to access corporate resources. This new extended workforce has also really embraced this hybrid model of being able to work from anywhere, really since the start of the pandemic. In fact, in a recent study published by Okta, we found that 82% of users prefer working in this hybrid mode. So this is clear evidence that today's workforce wants the ability to work from anywhere and use any device. And they also really want to be able to manage their own professional and personal responsibilities on their own time. And luckily, companies are supporting this by undertaking digital transformations and adopting more modern technology. But as companies are going through this transformation, IT teams are likely the ones most impacted. They really have to make sure that each and every identity has access to the applications that they need when they need it in order to remain productive. And as they are doing this, they also need to keep security at the top of mind. They need to make sure that they are granting the right level of access to each employee so that not one employee can go rogue. Lastly, due to the increasing regulation landscape, they are also working hand in hand with compliance teams across the organization to make sure that the company remains compliant with SOC 2 or PCI audits. So in order to support this new world of managing an extended workforce that accesses data from anywhere, it is critical for IT teams and companies to adopt an identity-first strategy. We're all familiar with Zero Trust. But what we must also recognize is that identity is the foundation for any zero trust architecture framework. Without a comprehensive identity-first strategy, companies risk exposing themselves to security breaches that could have severe implications, like missed revenue targets or tarnished reputations, all of which could be detrimental to any company. And even with all of this, today identity is solved in silos and not thought about holistically. For example, you may have a complex architecture of various identities spread throughout multiple Active Directory domains. You may also have an IAM system like Okta to protect your front door through SSO and MFA. And you may have yet another system for your identity governance and/or privileged access in order to help meet your compliance requirements. But using all of these disparate systems makes it increasingly difficult to determine who has access to what systems, when did they get that access, how did they get that access, and should they continue to have that access. And as you can imagine, these siloed systems are delivering poor outcomes. IT teams are spending a lot of time creating custom connectors to connect the various identity systems, which leads to lower efficiency. And then because these custom connectors are being used, they can't pass signals and contexts throughout the various systems, which then reduces their security posture. And lastly, you have a frustrated workforce that is tasked with rubber stamping approvals, reviewers not wanting to certify access, and employees waiting to request and gain access to the applications they need to do their day-to-day roles. So in order to implement a modern identity-first strategy, IT teams and companies need to think about identity holistically and come to it with a unified approach. We need to bring to the table critical identity and access management capabilities that are going to protect your front door and make sure that employees are accessing their resources in a secure manner. And at the same time, protect and automate the backdoor to make sure that employees are getting onboarded effectively and to make sure that you have the right policy structures in place so that you are granting the right levels of access to each employee. So this integrated approach is critical to help drive the right productivity and security outcomes and enable companies and IT teams to be successful in tackling the newer demands of today. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, all of this makes sense. Okta has historically been known for their IAM products. Are they going to be adding a governance product to the mix? And if you answered yes to yourself, you are 100% correct. So introducing Okta Identity Governance, a modern unified platform designed for an identity-first approach towards zero trust. So with this launch, we have introduced new governance capabilities such as access requests and access certification. And I'll be going into these in a bit more detail in a minute. And then customers can leverage these governance capabilities on top of the rich set of out-of-the-box integrations Okta has with applications to automate the process of employee onboarding and offboarding end-to-end. With all of these capabilities, Okta Identity Governance is a comprehensive toolkit designed to meet your security and governance needs. Now let's get into some of the features that make up Okta Identity Governance. So first up, we have access requests. We make it very easy for employees to go in and request access to an application from the chat tool that they are already using, like Slack or Teams. It also has a machine learning driven request interface. So the more that it gets used, the more efficient it is going to become. And then on the flip side, managers, IT admins, app owners, whoever needs to approve access can do so right in those same chat tools. And this is definitely increasing the level of efficiency and productivity for all of your employees because we are meeting them right where they are. With this feature, there's also support for time-based access. So if somebody wants access to an application with particularly sensitive data, they can request access for an hour or a week or however long it's going to take to get a project done. And then once that time limit is over, they'll automatically get deprovisioned from that application. Next up, we have access certification. And this is where you can create and manage the whole access review process. And you can do it super easy and quickly in 5 simple steps. You can launch campaigns from this dashboard that will allow you to review who has access to which application and who is part of which Okta group. You can even decide who the reviewers should be and what specific users you want to take a look at. And then managers can approve right from their Okta view. And all of these functionalities really help streamline what some organizations are doing today through spreadsheets, believe it or not. But the key detail here is that because it's a unified platform, we can provide detailed information about each user, like when was the last time they accessed an application. So if a manager is tasked with a review for their team, they can see that employee A hasn't accessed this application for 6 months and confidently revoke that access knowing that they don't need it to do their day-to-day job. And the last feature we'll touch on is out-of-the-box reporting. Admins can get out-of-the-box reports for access requests and access certifications. They are able to see who has access to an application in Okta and details as to why access was granted and when that access was last reviewed. So you can get these entire reports very easily. You can export them and then continue to drill down into the data from there. So as you can see, Okta Identity Governance introduces governance capabilities that are modern and simple to use to the Okta Identity Cloud. With this unified platform, customers will be able to leverage risk signals and access management information from their existing Okta deployment to drive improved security and compliance outcomes. This will allow them to truly use Okta as an identity control plane to effectively manage identities going forward. Also, Okta Identity Governance is lightweight and easy to deploy, resulting in faster time to value for customers. It requires minimal to no professional services and is bundled together with other products like Okta Lifecycle Management and Okta Workflows, giving customers true value for their money. So I'll close this presentation with one final takeaway. All of our product investments around identity management, security, governance, and privileged access is focused on one thing, our vision. It is to be your trusted partner and focus on building the right tools you need to implement a modern identity-centric security strategy that helps you tackle the challenges and demands of today and tomorrow. We really want to enable anyone to safely use any technology. So that ends the presentation portion of today. I do want to quickly, before we get into Q&A, I do want to introduce my colleague, Sam Katzen, who is here helping us with the questions that you guys have been sending in. Sam, if you want to.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you today to talk a little bit more about Okta Identity Governance. There's been a couple good questions in the chat. Maziel, I know there were some that you wanted to address as well.
Yeah, so we will get into those. And again, if you have any more questions, please feel free to send them in. Otherwise, we will just kind of go over some of the more commonly asked questions. So we did get some questions about the content, and if you can, sort of watch it later on. So I believe within the next 24 or 48 hours, you all should be receiving a recording of this presentation. If you have colleagues that also registered for this webinar, but for whatever reason weren't able to make it, they should be receiving that as well. So you'll definitely have access to this content. Let's see, what else have we? Some questions around. Okay, so we have some questions around requests from ServiceNow. So the access request portion of governance does connect with ServiceNow. So there are various ways that you can connect it and still use ServiceNow as a ticketing system and configure it in a way that's going to make sense for your organization. Let's see.
There's one question about using identity governance for legacy apps or not behind Okta. And yes, the question asker kind of brought this up, which is that it is possible to export CSV, import from the application, import that into Okta, run the certification campaign, automate that, then export the results back to that application. So that is possible.
Is there ability to use geolocation verification? I'm assuming that this is more on the authentication side, but we do have rules that can be set up for authentication purposes, depending on where the user is logging in from. If you are referring to, approving or revoking access based on a location, that is something different. Let's see. Is there an added cost for IGA? So IGA is sold as a bundle along with workflows and lifecycle management. If you are already a customer of workflows and or lifecycle management, it doesn't get automatically added, but you will see, immediate value by adding these governance capabilities to those products. So if you're interested in anything to do with that bundle or with pricing, definitely talk to your account manager.
There's another question here about what do we think makes Okta Identity Governance state of the art, and I think it's really a mindset shift that we're really excited about with OIG. And that mindset shift is that we really believe that there should be a unified solution between access management and identity governance. And so when you combine those two things and it's a tight integration, and there's a lot more benefits to customers. And one of the most, the thing that's kind of at the forefront of that is that all of the data that is being created on the access management side can flow into your governance decisions and solutions. And so things like event-based certifications are on their way. And all of that is ultimately going to make it so that you make better governance decisions. You can automate it, you can scale it, and you can do all of that with much less professional services and bespoke integrations required there. And so that's really what we think is exciting about it today. The product will continue to evolve and it'll meet more and more use cases. There's another question around Google Chat, and that's something that is potentially on the roadmap. Obviously, our mindset today with Slack, Microsoft Teams, that we really want to go to where end users are, that it makes it easy for them to make access requests, and ultimately makes it easier for IT to have kind of visibility and efficiency that all of us are striving for. And so adding more chat functionalities in the future is certainly something.
So we have a question around is IAM download information about the user from the HR system. So the benefit of having governance on the same, Okta platform that we all know and love, similar to what, Sam was just saying, we have the visibility into when a user was able to last access or when a user was able or access the application last, and we can make approval and revoke decisions based off of that. We also have reports that you can download that tell you that same information as well.
Yeah, and to piggyback, there was a couple questions on reporting as well. And so to piggyback on that, these are out-of-the-box reports, and they're going to be able to give you reports on certifications, on app usage, conceivably, on LCM, so lifecycle management functionalities, and those access requests and the justifications behind them. And so that all comes out of the box. If you want to build any bespoke reporting, that is possible via workflows. So there's a pretty broad set of outcomes that you can derive through Okta Identity Governance and that corresponding workflow solution. And there's another question here around tracking license usage. I think one of the benefits from those reports is not only that you have a sense of, hey, are we maintaining a least privileged solution here, but you also have this added benefit of being able to identify where maybe you do have over licensing occurring and whether those applications are actually being accessed and used by all of the users that it's provisioned to.
Yeah, will these capabilities be sold as separate SKUs? So right now, as I mentioned, this is sold as a bundle. You really see the value of governance as well as, lifecycle management and the extra capabilities that come with workflows when using it together. So we think you'll really find that is the most beneficial way to use these products together. And then for access reviews, can the system record the fact that a manager has reviewed access for their teams? Yes. So we can see once a review has been completed, you can, as a manager, if you're in charge of doing those reviews within your own application that's on your Okta dashboard, you can see the progress of the different tasks that you have to review. And then admins can also see once a certification campaign has been completed as well.
Question here about the IGA solution and whether it works with Okta Managed Access. And today, that's really one of the best fits that we see out there is for all those applications or resources that are managed within Okta. There are workarounds for applications that are outside of that. We kind of discussed access certification use case previously with the CSV downloads. So those are possible. And so it's just a question of perhaps what I would recommend doing is talking to your specific AE or CSN and get a little bit more into your specific use case to understand how OIG can fit it.
We also had a question around entitlements, and we are excited to share that we are going into beta with entitlements later this year. So please be on the lookout for that advancement as well.
There's a question here about determining if a request is for a fake account. If I understand the question correctly, all of these users are managed via Okta and within Universal Directory. So the same controls that you have on the access management side apply here on the governance side as well. And so if a user exists within your Universal Directory, then you have a really good sense that is, in fact, who they say that they are, and they are authenticating via all the means that you would have them authenticate in any other application. So when they're in a position to make an access request, whether that's via a portal, the access request application, or via a Slack or an MS Teams, you have a pretty good sense of trust that individual is who they say they are through those same access controls that you rely on via Okta.
Just want to thank you all for joining us this morning. We hope you are as excited about Okta Identity Governance as we are. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to your Okta AEs. I'm sure everyone here would be happy to talk to you more about that. So thanks again for joining and have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you, Maciel. Such an interesting chat between you and Sam. Thanks for digging into some audience questions there. Now, I know there's a lot that we still didn't get to, and so we are going to make sure that the Okta team is able to answer those either live chat or in follow-up emails, so keep those questions coming in. I also want to point out that we've got that poll question up on the screen for you, and what we're looking for is what additional information would you like to get about the Okta solution? So obviously, we were just kind of scratching the surface. You get a lot of info in a short period of time. There's a lot more to dig into. So click on the poll and let the Okta team know how they can follow up with you, what information you would want to get. You can also head over to that Handouts tab and download the solution brief, Okta Identity Governance. It's going to walk you through how to increase your agility, cloud performance, adoption, and really keep up with the rapid pace of digital transformation initiatives. This is such an important thing to dig into a little bit further, so please do download that handout, hold on to it, and you can read that after we wrap today. Again, a little light afternoon reading on identity governance. Who doesn't love that, right? All right, and I think it's time to do a quick prize giveaway before we get into our, our last presentation. Okay, but before we get to that, I will remind you all that you do need to be here live and present with us at the summit in order to win. Our very next winner of a $300 Amazon gift card today is Kelly Sievert of Michigan. Kelly Sievert of Michigan, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card, so congratulations to you. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up our summit today. And don't forget, there is still one more chance to win a prize, plus that best question gift card from each session, so stay tuned for that. All right, well, you heard me say it. I can't even believe it's true, but we are already here at our very last presentation of the summit today. But don't worry, because we have a wonderful grand finale lined up for you all. Our very last presenter on the summit today will be Dave Hickman, Director of Product Marketing at AppDynamics. Dave, thank you so much for being here with us to bring us on home to wrap up our summit. I am so excited to hear what you have in store for us, so I'm going to hand the mic right on over to you. Take it away, Dave.
All right. Thanks, Jess. It is wonderful to be here today, and I'm very excited to be able to give everybody an introduction and overview into Cisco AppDynamics. And I look forward to answering any questions that come through during the talk or after the talk. So please send those questions in. So let's go ahead and get started. For those of you that don't already know Cisco AppDynamics, let's get to the next slide here. We are an APM and observability company, and our goal is to help our customers turn performance into profit. We're one of the only business context-centric observability vendors on the market today, and we're very proud of that moniker. We were founded back in 2008 as one of the first application performance monitoring companies, and we've since branched out beyond just code monitoring to every different application domain that touches your application performance. We call that full stack observability. Now, as I mentioned, we were founded back in 2008. We were actually acquired by Cisco in 2017, and we continue to grow and make great strides. We are a market leader in the space with some of the biggest enterprise customers in the world, and they use us to monitor and protect their most mission-critical applications. And our customers span multiple industries, from finance to retail, manufacturing, government, almost every industry that you can imagine. And we have some of the biggest leaders there. So as we look into, what we do, as I said, we help enterprises turn performance into profit, because change these days is the only constant, and the way that businesses are now engaging with their customers has fundamentally shifted, especially due to the pandemic. Almost every company today relies on digital services in order to interact with their customers. And if you don't keep up with those customer expectations, you're going to cease to exist. Applications are the front door to an ever-evolving digital experience. And the customers, they expect it to work all the time. And in fact, you really only have one shot to get it right most of the time, because one poor customer experience can jeopardize everything. You see, when things go wrong, the best case, scenario, they actually call you and ask you for help, and that's going to cost you money. More than likely, they're going to go somewhere else and choose another vendor or choose another interaction method, and that's going to take a hit, and that's going to cost you money. And even if it's an internal application, if it's not working, then your help desk gets called. That's costing you more money. Those employees are impacted by not being able to be productive. In fact, during a recent survey, we found that close to 70% of users now consider it disrespectful for brands to offer a poor digital experience. The expectation is that it's going to be a delightful experience every single time. And businesses agree. According to the Cisco AppDynamics App Attention Index, 96% of businesses anticipate negative consequences for their business if their transformation plans don't go according to their plans. Now let's take a moment to think about what happens when something goes wrong with your application. Interestingly, business used to have no idea what was going on in their environment. And the first they would hear from it would maybe be from a friendly customer. And usually that's followed up by every team kind of jumping into a war room, everybody's logging in, pointing fingers at one another, drastically trying to figure out whose problem is this to solve. Well, over the last 5 years, everything has swung in the opposite direction. Instead of not enough data, there's data everywhere. The problem is every team has their own technology, and they're all trying to make sense of a problem from a different lens. And 85% of customers today will even agree they have all the data, but it's too much. The challenge is being able to drive insight from that data so that they can quickly understand root cause. Not to mention, a lot of the teams and tools don't talk to each other. So maybe your APM tool and your network tool are showing something completely different, and that just hampers your ability to solve problems for the customers. Here at AppDynamics, we acknowledge that we even used to be part of a bigger collection of tools. Now that we're part of Cisco, we're bringing together a solution to address the wider problem that customers face. So it's no surprise that everything is getting more complicated these days. There's applications are more distributed. They're using microservices. They're using containers. They're using cloud platforms. It's no longer an issue of an application running on a server behind a firewall. They're distributed across multiple data centers and multiple clouds, and that's generating a lot of complexity. More so, there's a lot of different people who are involved in supporting these new modern digital applications. You've got the business team is looking at Tableau for business data, and the user experience team, well, they're using Google Analytics to kind of look at what happened the day before. APM, the app team is using APM. Infra team is using something else. Network team is still relying on, packet sniffers. And all of that just makes it really complicated to get a big picture of what's happening with your application experience at any given time. So what we do is we help solve this problem by putting it all together with full stack visibility. And we enable that by providing deep domain visibility throughout the entire stack. And then we add business context to every data point so that you can really understand what you're looking at, what do I need to do, and how do I need to respond. And our aim here is pretty straightforward. We want to make the complex simple and aligned to business objectives. Let me explain that a little bit further. At Cisco, the way we see it, firstly, you need to have deep domain data access. Access to metrics, events, logs, and traces coming from the application, the infrastructure, the network, the security layer. At this point, you have what we call full stack visibility. Now, to shift towards observability, we provide cross-domain data correlation that ensures contextualization of each data domain so that you can understand what is the impact to my business, what is the impact to my user experience. Help me decode all of these, millions of events and tell me something meaningful. So with that, you have the ability to understand the problem and quickly prioritize those issues using business context. And if I want to give you an example here, starting with full stack visibility, let's say I have an application, let's say it's my a local pizza company, and they're starting to see some metrics coming in. There's a few alerts coming in, a few slow calls. What does that really mean, right? In a vacuum, it means nothing, but being able to provide full stack insights to the data that we're looking at, we can now see that, oh, all of these events are affecting my ability to check out. Ooh, so now I understand where in my application I'm experiencing a problem. I can then further use my business analytics to say that's had a direct impact on my conversion. I used to get, 100 pizzas an hour placed through my website. Now I'm only getting 2 pizzas an hour. That's a problem. Let's go ahead and forward this out to the API team to do a little bit of research. And what we find is, hey, we actually discovered that there is a payment service routing problem. So really it's a third-party payment service that's preventing our customers from checking out because they can't pay with their credit card. And as a result, that's causing problems. And if we can fix these issues, we have what we call our feedback loop. We contact that payment service. We make sure that you can start paying with a credit card. And you should see some of these events clearing up on the visibility side of the house. So that's a great example of how we've taken deep domain visibility, paired that with business insights to be able to drive actions and see that all the way through to remediation. So let's get into a little bit more about our portfolio. I'm going to start with business context. As I mentioned, business context changes everything. We have a very powerful business analytics tool. It's already integrated with our agents, so it's turnkey for customers. And you can create fantastic views that merge application performance and business performance. For instance, here I might see that I've got 4 services that are supporting this particular business health. One of those services is red. I've got a problem with one of those services, and I can also see right next to it within my business funnel, right down here at the 3rd layer, I'm experiencing some constriction. Instead of 100 pizzas an hour, now I'm only doing 60 pizzas an hour. To be able to tie a technical problem and locate that within an application and be able to tie that back to the business makes every tech decision a business decision, and it helps you sort through all the noise and continually optimize your digital investments. Next, it's all about the users. You need to understand your users' experience, because if they're having a bad experience, they're not going to come back. So what we offer is real user monitoring, synthetic user monitoring, and even some advanced analytics in terms of automatically generating user journeys and being able to overlay performance impact and business impact on top of those user journeys so that you can understand, not just is my user experience, red or green, but where is it being impacted? How is it being impacted? How is that affecting my business? So that you can identify all of these end user issues so that you can really focus on delivering a flawless experience for your customers every time. Next, APM, that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what we do, about being able to instrument your applications, automatically discover the topology, visualize it in a very easy to understand way so you can instantly see where the challenges are within your application, applying artificial intelligence and machine learning to detect anomalies, to be able to do root cause analysis to automatically pinpoint what part of your application is experiencing slowness or errors so that you can immediately take action on those insights. And this is something that we've done to really, again, connect those IT teams to the business teams, proactively diagnose things, and we can do this across on-prem applications, traditional applications, as well as cloud-native applications and hybrid applications as well. Another thing that has been very popular among customers, and we're one of the only vendors that can do this, is looking at some of your internal system performance. SAP is a system behind so many different businesses. and it's a critical part of that application workflow, whether I order something and I have to go through inventory or payment and order to cash and procure to pay, all of that kind of stuff. Customers have traditionally had, poor visibility into not only how is my code working, but how are my business processes within SAP working? How efficiently are they? So we can actually provide, again, combined insights. So I can see here's a particular order management dashboard. I can see my first couple of things are in the green, but my two different parts of this, the ability to pay, is automatically flagged in red. I'm having an application problem here at the top, and then I can also see, below that a nice little chart of this is my business process. It goes from ordering to delivery, and I can see exactly what part of my business process is being affected by this particular application problem. And that allows our customers to monitor all of their SAP systems, whether it's legacy on-prem SAP all the way up to the hosted cloud SAP HANA, and it allows them to be more effective in terms of monitoring their end-to-end insights for supply chain and migration, all the way down to transaction level analytics. And that's something that is a huge blind spot for most customers, and AppDynamics uniquely helps solve that problem. Next is infrastructure. All applications run on infrastructure, and it's really important to be able to make sure that that infrastructure is not only working well, error-free and all that stuff, but also has the capacity to be able to scale while at the same time optimizing for costs. So what we have is some capabilities where we can actually profile the infrastructure, the cloud-native infrastructure that your applications are running on, and make real-time suggestions on how to either provision more resources in order to avoid any risk of any spikes exceeding capacity. Or it will also proactively recommend areas of optimization. Maybe you want to scale down a particular EC2 instance or reduce the memory because you're only using 10% of it. You're paying for all of that capacity that you're not actually using. So we can actually help our customers not only make sure that the applications perform well in terms of experience, but also that they perform well in terms of cost optimization to the business. And that is something that we actually have even acquired a few new companies for over the last year, and has some very exciting stuff coming out in the next few months. Next is internet visibility. It's funny. We have the same problem everybody else has. You can see what's happening in the back end with APM and infrastructure monitoring. You can see what's happening on the front end with browser monitoring or mobile application monitoring. But there was this giant black hole in between those two things called the internet. And the internet, believe it or not, I'm sure most of you already realize, it's not one connection from server to user. There's multiple hops that happen to the internet. There's a lot of opportunities for things to be misconfigured and perform poorly. So what we have is we actually have an integration. Cisco acquired a company called Thousand Eyes a few years ago. We have a great integration that ties together, identifies any sort of network dependencies for the applications you're monitoring, gives you real-time feedback in terms of, if I'm experiencing a user experience problem, is it the network or is it the application? And it allows our operators to go in deeper and actually troubleshoot internet problems with this combined visibility. And I think this is a perfect example of how AppDynamics is even stronger being part of Cisco, because we can offer these combined solutions that ultimately solve specific use case problems for our customers. And then finally, something that we launched a couple of years ago is application security. So we have the luxury of having a unique lens into your application. Now, I'll preface this by saying, traditional applications back in the past was an application running on a server behind a firewall. You could just build a firewall around the application and that was fine. But today's modern applications, they're, running on, microservices, running on containers across multiple public and private clouds. You just can't build a firewall around all of that. Luckily, with our agent-based instrumentation, we can see what is actually executing within the application and how it's executing and what is the normal behavior and what is not normal behavior. And we use that information to automatically detect any sort of vulnerabilities that are in your applications, as well as any current ongoing threats. We not only detect, we can protect, because we have active policy management where you can set up rules that says, hey, if I see a known bad actor come through the door, block that port. Or if I see a vulnerability on one of my libraries, say, hey, if it ever tries to talk to a database, block that action or patch my security headers. And it allows us to buy time for customers until they can actually remediate it in the code itself. We like to say that, it's delays between finding a vulnerability and then fixing it is what gives bad actors a gap to be able to exploit that in the breach. We are constantly scanning, so this is not a once a month, once a week thing, constantly scanning, looking for new vulnerabilities, looking for new attacks. And then we've just recently released some pretty cool prioritization capabilities. So we've integrated new threat intelligence feeds from Cisco Talos. We've integrated new vulnerability intelligence feeds from Cisco Kenna. We've integrated new API profiling tools from Cisco Panoptica. And all of those together, so we take the application insight that we have, knowing that this vulnerability is on this library and it's talking to the database and it's connected to the internet. We compare that with our business transaction mapping to say, ooh, I know that this vulnerability will impact my ability to log into my website. And then we add on all these other threat and vulnerability intelligence. We're able to actually create a master business risk score and stack rank all of your threats by what is most important to your business. And that score is updated constantly. It's not a static score. It's not just sort of a CVSS score. So it's something that you can rely on to be able to monitor, hey, what is at the top of my list? Maybe something that was a watch yesterday is now a critical alert today because the exploits have been shooting through the roof. And that is helping to automate the prioritization of our customers in terms of how they deal with the threats that are the most important and most impactful to their company. So, that's sort of the quick high-level overview of the big portfolio. There's certainly a lot more that we can talk about, but just in summary, we are here as Cisco bringing together visibility, insights, and actions, across all of your application domains, the application, the infrastructure, the network, the internet, cloud, application security, and we can view all of these things through a user experience in a business context lens to, again, make sure that you have the most optimal user experience and that you're driving positive business outcomes and you're focusing on the right thing. And that's something that we call full stack observability. We do have a handout today that'll give you a little bit of an overview of a couple of our different offerings. And of course, we encourage you to visit our website. So with that, why don't we take some questions?
Should we get into some questions, Dave?
Let's get into some questions.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for that awesome presentation. We did get a lot of questions. We also got a lot of people sending in some high fives, really enjoying that full stack visibility. Russell mentioned that he really appreciated the visibility and reporting capabilities. And lots of folks kind of echoing those high fives as well. So thank you so much for that, Dave.
Awesome.
I do also want to point out that I'm going to put up a poll for all of you right now. And what we're wondering is what additional information you would like to get about the App Dynamics solution. So lots of great information that we just covered and lots more to dig into. And as Dave just mentioned, we have that handout for you as well. That's a great place to start. Another great way is to click on this poll here and let App Dynamics know what additional information they can send right to you. So hit the easy button. Make your life easy. Just click on that poll and App Dynamics will follow up with you and get you what you need. While they're doing that, Dave, you ready to dive into some questions?
Yeah, let's do it, Jess.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to start with this one from Russell that actually just came in. Wondering if you could let us know a little bit about the complexity of implementation and kind of getting the product suite set up, and also wondering what kind of support would be available from AppDynamics through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? We've made huge strides in terms of helping our customers get up and running as fast as possible. It's very simple. In fact, we have just released a new agent management platform that really automates probably the most tedious part of setup, which is instrumenting all of your applications. So we now have a new automation tool that allows you to very simply install, configure, update, and do that all securely with resilient rollback, as well as leveraging internal private libraries. That's something that's available through the product. It's actually based on a lot of open source technologies, based on skills that are existing within the organization today. And of course, we have a full professional services organization if you want the easy button to get up and running, and we have premium support options as well too. As well as, that's one of the great things about Cisco is we have a massive partner community, and we work very closely with that partner community, who also kind of helps provide that fast track easy button for our customers.
I love that. And actually, you're dovetailing perfectly into a question here from Bing, who's wondering about whether or not your application security offering is going to integrate well with other security tools. So he has existing IT infrastructure. Can he integrate in, or does he have to replace and start from scratch?
No, very, very good question. Absolutely. When we decided to tackle the security issue, we knew we didn't want to be just another siloed security tool. We understand that we have to work within a security framework, and we have to support the workflows that they already have established. They have to be part of the solution and not just another standalone thing. So we already integrate with SEM databases, so we can share that security event detail with these investigative databases that security professionals already use for their investigations. We are integrating with Cisco SecureX. That will then tie in the events that we have with all of the other Cisco security tools to provide even greater visibility. So for instance, if we can tell, yes, there was a vulnerability, yes, it was exploited, yes, the attacker came in through this door, by integrating with some of the Cisco SecureX stuff, we'll be able to connect that with maybe email security and other web server security tools. And then, of course, we also have APIs to be able to send events anywhere you want. So in addition to those built-in integrations, it's an API-first approach that allows you to generate those security events and send it to whatever backend or whatever people you want to get that out to.
Perfect. Okay, well, I very much wish that we could keep going with this, Dave, but I think we're going to have to wrap it up pretty quickly here. Before you take off, for somebody out there that is looking to get started with AppDynamics, what do you recommend as the very first step to getting rolling?
So I would recommend go to appdynamics.com, take a look at some of the information there. We actually have free trials available. First kind of decide what sort of deployment you're looking for. We have on-prem deployment is supported. We also have SaaS versions. We even have a FedRAMP version if you're in the government. But take a look at the different offerings. We actually have different levels of bundles. So if you just want infrastructure, we've got you. If you want infrastructure and application and all that, we've got you. If you want to have that in business context as part of this, we've got you. But go to our website, sign up for a free trial, take a look at some of the webinars that we have there. And, I encourage you to give it a try.
I love that. Definitely the best way to get to know any solution, of course, is to kind of get hands-on and start exploring. Dave, thank you so much for being here with us. You're an excellent grand finale. You've wrapped us up in style here. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me, Jess.
And thank you to all of you who filled out that poll. Please keep that coming. Do head over to the Handouts tab, as Dave mentioned. We've got a great takeaway for you all from AppDynamics. It's a create your center of business observability. So you can learn more about accelerating your digital transformation with the insights you need the most. And that's so important. We talked about that with spring cleaning, right? This is what David was saying. It's laying everything out so you can see what you've got and getting the insight and then making decisions. So, take that time. Spend a little time reading this handout, and I promise you will enjoy what you're reading. Before you take off, though, we do have one more prize giveaway. So let's go ahead. Now this time we're going to give away a $300 Amazon gift card and 3 Acer gaming laptops. All right, so get ready. Now I'll remind you one more time, you do need to be live and present with us here at the summit in order to win. Our very last winner of a $300 Amazon gift card is Lisa Pellin of Massachusetts. Lisa Pellin of Massachusetts, congratulations. And our 3 winners of the Acer Gaming laptops are Jigar Amraliwala of Maryland, Mark Shemp of Texas, and Ruben Rico of Texas. Ruben, you sound like a superhero. Ruben Rico. Jigar Amraliwala of Maryland, Mark Shemp of Texas, and Ruben Rico also of Texas. Let me read the whole winners list out to you. You guys are really testing my voice capabilities today here at the end of our summit. All right, we had a gift card going to Kenneth Priestas of Illinois, a Bose speaker going to John Glover of Indiana, David Nizer of Ohio, Owner Olmez of California, Ashley Emanuel of Texas, and Jen Jones of Missouri. Then we had a gift card going to Clint Rankin of Oklahoma, also to David Sulak of Texas. A Kindle Scribe going to Gwendolyn Crutcher of Alabama, Stacy Sanchez of California, and to Jason Medina of Illinois. A gift card going to Kelly Sieverts of Michigan and to Lisa Pellin of Massachusetts. And then an Acer Gaming laptop going to Higar Amraliwala of Maryland and Mark Shemp of Texas, as well as Ruben Rico of Texas. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prizes after we wrap the summit today. Now, don't forget about that best question gift card. We will be reviewing all of the questions asked after we wrap. We will make sure all questions get to the teams. So if you didn't get an answer today, you'll hear from them in follow-up, and you are still entered to win that best question gift card. So lots of good things still to come, information and prizes coming your way. All right. Well, hey, if you are out there on the webinar today and you're thinking that you might want to come and hang out with us, I highly recommend it. We're a great time, and it's just a lot of fun to have new faces, new friends. So come join us for a summit, an EcoCast, a MegaCast, a webinar, whatever you have in mind. We would love to hear with you. We'd love to get that conversation going. So reach out via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com. And with that, folks, on behalf of the ActualTech Media team, I want to once again thank all of our speakers here with us today from Rubrik, 1111 Systems, Zerto, Okta, and AppDynamics for making this summit possible. You know, on that note, an absolutely giant thank you to all of you for attending, for asking some great questions. I'm always blown away by the energy and the engagement from all of you. Today was no exception. I had a ton of fun talking with you all. We started with, cats or dogs, and we ended with security, and it's been a whole range of topics today, so everything in between, spring cleaning, spring break, all the best things, right? I hope that you have really enjoyed this discussion, getting maybe a little more strategic, thinking about how we grow and enhance, revise, or design those dream IT infrastructures. And that's a really exciting topic. That's one of the best things that we get to think about here, right, are the possibilities, the opportunities, and that's a lot of fun. Now, before you take off today, I do want to make sure that you mark your calendars and come back and join us on Tuesday, April 11th. That's 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're going to be running an EcoCast on improving security, usability, and compliance with data governance framework. That's a really interesting topic. We're going to be working with Anaconda on that. So improving security, usability, and compliance with data governance framework. Tuesday, April 11th, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Really, really cool vendor, really cool solution. So come chat with us, learn a little bit more about Anaconda and that security, usability, and compliance. Always important. All right, well, I hope you had fun with us today. I can't wait to see you all again soon, whether it's a summit, an EcoCast, a MegaCast, a webinar. And until we get to chat again, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.